Hello and welcome. We are live from New Delhi. You're watching DD India Live, India's voice to the world. I'm Abhishek Mahajan. Coming up in the next 30 minutes. Gaza ceasefire talks underway in Paris as airstrikes continue. Israel says it will attack the city if no truce agreement is reached soon. United Nations Security Council marks 2 years of Russia-Ukraine war. German Chancellor Olaf Scholz says Europe needs to beef up its defences, calls for stronger Europe. And India looked to take early wickets on day 2 of the Ranchi Test. England are 302 for 7 with Joe Root and Ollie Robinson at the crease. Now news in detail. In a fresh move, an Israeli negotiating team reached Paris on Friday for a potential ceasefire in Gaza. It is the latest sign of tentative progress towards an agreement that could end the 5-month-old Israel-Hamas conflict. The Israeli delegation, which includes the heads of its internal and external intelligence services, will meet the director of the CIA, Qatar's Prime Minister, and Egypt's most senior intelligence official for talks over the weekend in a serious push to halt the ongoing conflict. And families of hostages held in Gaza blocked Tel Aviv's main transport artery on Friday in a protest calling for the immediate release of all hostages. Protesting families and supporters set up a dinner table with empty chairs representing the 134 hostages on the eve of the Jewish Shabbat. Hamas is still believed to be holding more than 100 hostages in Gaza for 140 days since the October 7 attack on Israel that precipitated the conflict. And as the conflict between Russia and Ukraine completes 2 years, United Nations Security Council held a special meeting on the eve of the war anniversary. The UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres addressed the Security Council and stated that international disputes shall be settled by peaceful means as per the UN Charter. He added all states shall refrain from the threat or use of force against the territorial integrity or political independence of any other state. Guterres also met with foreign ministers from Ukraine, Poland, France, Spain, the United Kingdom, the Republic of Korea and Germany. German Chancellor Olaf Scholz said Europe needs to beef up its defences, while Ukraine's Foreign Minister Dmytro Kuleba thanked global leaders for standing by Ukraine. And a delegation of US senators met with Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky in Lviv on Friday. As the aid for Ukraine hangs in the balance, the group in Lviv was led by Democratic Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer. During the meeting, Schumer said the main reasons we have come here is to tell the Ukrainian people that US is with you. Republican House Speaker Mike Johnson has blocked passage of a bill that includes $60 billion in new funding for Ukraine so far. Meanwhile, US President Joe Biden has announced more than 500 new sanctions against Russia for its conflict with Ukraine and also the death of Russian opposition leader Alexei Navalny. The White House has said these sanctions will target individuals connected to Navalny's imprisonment, as well as Russia's financial sector, defense industrial base, procurement networks and sanctions evaders across multiple continents. And Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky said it would be a tragedy for his countrymen and all of Europe if his nation is left to survive without any further weapons aid from the US.
Will Ukrainians survive without Congress support? Of course, but not all of us. And if we understand this price, if the world is ready for this, okay, you will see it. But it's tragedy. It will be tragedy for all of us, not only for Ukraine, not only for Ukrainians, for all Europe. And you will see that they will go. Putin will never stay, will never stop. He will go through Eastern Europe because he wants it.
And in the United States state of South Carolina go to the polls on Saturday in the first Republican primary in the country's south this year. Nikki Haley is the only candidate who has a chance of beating Donald Trump to get the party's nomination, but it's an uphill battle with strong support for the former president. Caroline Malone reports from Charleston, South Carolina.
Well, it's almost time for the South Carolina Republican presidential primary election on Saturday, with the two main contenders, Donald Trump, former US president, and former UN ambassador and South Carolina governor Nikki Haley, the contenders for the nomination. Here in Charleston, we've had campaign events including from Donald Trump Jr., the former president's son, who's been putting forward to voters that Donald Trump is absolutely the right man to be the leader of the United States again, that he is a strong leader who's the only one that can really defend the country, particularly on a global stage, and also protect the borders and fight against some of the immigration that is a major issue for many voters. Voters here in South Carolina are also concerned about the economy and jobs. Nikki Haley, though, is saying that she is the right person for the job. She has a track record in South Carolina. She says she helped to build jobs during her time in office here and also helped to boost the economy and was one of the strongest performing states in the time that she was governor. Her campaign has also spoken about how there's a chaos surrounding Trump, him of course having a number of criminal cases that are ongoing during this campaigning and election year. She says she's the only person that can beat the current President Biden, and in fact polls do reflect that. It shows that if there was a matchup between Haley and Biden, that she could potentially win by about 15 points according to how people feel at the moment. However, in this state, in South Carolina, Trump seems to be doing as well as he has done in previous primaries in New Hampshire, in Iowa. In this state, leading by about 30 points, according to current polls. We've already had a lot of early voting as well. That's now closed, but about 200,000 people actually showed up to put their vote in early, and that's really strong turnout and far greater even than the Democratic primary that happened in early February, giving us an idea that there is strong interest for people to come out and engage and vote in this election. Caroline Malone in Charleston, South Carolina for DD India.
And in a civil corruption case, the New York jury found that former National Rifle Association chief Wayne LaPierre cost the gun rights group millions of dollars through lavish spending on himself. The New York Attorney General Letitia James had accused the National Rifle Association and LaPierre of violating state laws. The jury also found that former National Rifle Association treasurer and former CFO Wilson Phillips cost the organization $2 million through mismanagement. LaPierre has built the National Rifle Association into a political powerhouse that pressed Washington and state houses to expand gun rights, even as mass shootings mounted nationwide. And one of the biggest farming expos in the world is set to open in Paris on Saturday. The convention is traditionally inaugurated by the French president, and this year Emmanuel Macron is going to face angry farmers who have been protesting for weeks over a litany of grievances. And as Tony Waterman reports, some are already waiting for him at the venue.
As this massive agricultural show gets underway here in Paris, French farmers are piling the pressure on the government. You can see this massive convoy of about 30 tractors that made its way through and around the city earlier, moving at a snail's pace and causing just a bunch of traffic jams before landing here at the convention center where the show is taking place. These farmers say that they are not satisfied with the concessions that the government has already made. Things like pausing a fuel tax and also cracking down on distributors who are violating laws that are meant to protect farmers' salaries. Now, Emmanuel Macron, the French president, was meant to have a debate with these farmers on Saturday, but has now canceled that at the last minute. after the largest farmers union in the country, the FNSEA, said that it would not participate. They called the debate provocative and said that emotions are just running too high right now for a peaceful dialogue to take place. Some of these farmers have actually been protesting now for weeks. They are protesting things like low salaries, spiking costs, cheap imports, red tape, and new environmental regulation. Earlier this week, the French Prime Minister, Gabriel Attal, held a press conference. He said that farming should be of a national interest for the country and offered support packages for these farmers, which are going to be put into a bill in June. This convention that is taking place here over the next week is one of the largest agricultural shows in the entire world. It brings together people from all different aspects of the industry, representatives from more than 30 countries. But this year, it seems that the main focus is going to be on protesters, not just here in France, but really right across Europe. Tony Waterman in Paris reporting for DD India.
And in Pakistan, in a desperate attempt to salvage its beleaguered economy, Pakistan has again turned to IMF, seeking a tranche of at least $6 billion loan to help the incoming government repay billions in debt due this year. Pakistan seeks to negotiate an extended fund facility with the IMF. It may be recalled, Pakistan averted default last summer owing to short-term IMF bailout, and now a new government will have to negotiate a long-term arrangement to keep $350 billion economy stable.
In a bid to alleviate the looming debt crisis, Pakistan's newly formed government is gearing up to secure a substantial loan from the International Monetary Fund. With the pending debt for the current year estimated at billions of dollars, the government is eyeing a loan of at least $6 billion from the IMF. Meanwhile, former Pakistan Prime Minister has urged IMF to call for an independent audit of the country's controversial national elections before it continues talks with Islamabad. As the country's major political parties have inked a formal agreement to form a coalition government, political pundits assert that both parties will be under immense pressure to deliver a tangible result in order to ensure their survival in the coalition.
The political space has shrunk. The two parties need to deliver if they want to stay in power and if they want to survive as parties. They no longer represent an alternative to one another, and the army no longer represents an alternative to either of them or both of them. So the success is an imperative. Now, a lot of things can happen, of course, but this is the main factor that may push them into more efficiency.
However, the sentiment among local residents remains skeptical, with many expressing a lack of hope in the coalition government comprised of former politicians wielding familiar power.
It seems like a joke. These politicians have been ruling this country for the last 40 years. They are being imposed upon us once again. I don't think this government will last long. Today, the economy of this country is in shambles. They were in power. What did they do for the country?
Pakistan narrowly dodged default last year with a short-term IMF bailout. But with the expiration of the program next month, the new government faces the daunting task of negotiating a long-term arrangement to stabilize the country's $350 billion economy. With bureau inputs, Amish Mahajan's report for DD India.
And there are fears of a deepening rift in West Africa after 3 countries announced their withdrawal from an important regional bloc aimed at improving relations, trade and movement in the region. Mali, Burkina Faso and Niger Republic have announced their exit from the Economic Community of West African States known as ECOWAS. The decision to break away was in response to sanctions imposed on them by the bloc following the military takeover of governments in all 3 countries.
It's the second time the leaders are meeting this month alone to discuss the issue and other concerns in the region. They last met on the 8th, where they pledged to redouble dialogue efforts with the 3 countries to remain in the bloc. ECOWAS says that withdrawal is at a time when the member states need to be united to tackle security concerns in the region and foster its growth. According to the organization, close to 2,000 insurgent attacks were recorded in the region in the first half of last year, resulting in nearly 5,000 deaths and severe humanitarian consequences. The region has been addressing the concerns with a multinational joint task force comprising 15 member countries. ECOWAS is asking the military rulers to conduct elections and restore constitutional democracy in the countries. But authorities in Mali, Burkina Faso and Niger Republic say that won't be done immediately. They have also announced plans to form a confederation following their exit from ECOWAS. Lifting of sanctions against the three breakaway states is being discussed, but they are also being asked to rescind their decision to try and avert a deepening crisis. Tassim Akende in Jos, reporting for DD India.
Now let's take a look at other stories making news around the world. Fireworkers lit up the night sky over Moscow, capping the Russia's Army Day celebrations, a public holiday in Russia that honors those serving in the armed forces and military veterans. The annual ceremony comes a day before the 2-year anniversary of the start of Russia's special military operation in Ukraine. At least 9 people were killed by a huge fire that ripped through an apartment block in an affluent district of Spain's third largest city, Valencia. The blaze, fanned by strong winds, engulfed the block in Valencia's El Campana district within half an hour on Thursday evening. Firefighters with masks and oxygen tanks worked their way through the charred buildings looking for survivors. International French actors and directors applauded the arrival at the 49th César Awards ceremony in France. The ceremony unfolded at the Olympia Theatre in Paris on Friday evening. French film director Justine Triet became the second female filmmaker in the César Awards' 49-year history to win the Best Director trophy. All right, we'll slip into a short break, but still to come on this edition of DD India Live. Indian Met Department forecasts rainfall and snowfall in India's northeast. And the Court of Arbitration for Sport dismisses Russia's appeal against the International Olympic Committee's decision to suspend its membership.
Is shooting the messenger the policy of Mamata Banerjee government? Is it going to work? Will it bring relief to the people?
The arrest of a journalist during a live show. Now, just imagine the police could have arrested him before or after the show. You want to send a message across the fraternity.
It will be very difficult for Mamata Banerjee to suppress all these voices. She is trying her best.
Please take pains to identify what the truth is. First, register the cases. You're not only not registering the cases, you're not even pursuing the cases. And that goes to show what your priorities are.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India Live. I'm Abhishek Mahajan. In a major step to strengthen the cooperative sector of the country, Prime Minister Narendra Modi will inaugurate and lay the foundation stone of multiple key initiatives for the cooperative sector. Prime Minister will inaugurate the pilot projects of world's largest grain storage plant in cooperative sector, which is being done in 11 primary agricultural credit societies of 11 states. Prime Minister will also lay the foundation stone for additional 500 PSCs across the country for construction of godowns and other agri-infrastructure under this initiative. This initiative aims to seamlessly integrate PSCs godowns with the food grain supply chain, fortifying food security and fostering economic development in the country. Prime Minister will inaugurate project for computerization in 18,000 PSCs across the country, aimed at rejuvenating the cooperative sector and empowering small and marginal farmers. And Prime Minister Narendra Modi to address the Viksit Bharat, Viksit Chhattisgarh program via video conferencing. Prime Minister will inaugurate, dedicate to the nation and lay the foundation stone of multiple development projects worth over Rs 34,400 crore. PM will dedicate NTPC's Lara Super Thermal Power Project Stage 1 to the nation and lay foundation stone of NTPC's Lara Super Thermal Power Project Stage 2. In Raigad district of Chhattisgarh, project will also play a crucial role in improving power scenario in several other states and UTs. Prime Minister will inaugurate the solar PV project at Rajnandgaon to generate an estimated 243.53 million units of energy annually. Strengthening the infrastructure in the region, Prime Minister will dedicate Bilaspur Ulsapur flyover. Prime Minister will also dedicate a 50 megawatt solar power plant in Bhilai. It will help in utilization of solar energy in running trains. And Prime Minister will dedicate rehabilitation and upgradation of 55.65 kilometer long section of NH49 to 2 lanes with paved shoulders. The project will help in improving connectivity between two important cities, Bilaspur and Raigad. And in line with India's commitment to strengthening energy security and furthering sustainable development, India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi to virtually inaugurate 3 key first-mile connectivity projects valued at over Rs 600 crore. The Dipka OCP coal handling plant stands out as a key project constructed at a cost exceeding Rs 211 crore. Another noteworthy project is the Shal OCP coal handling plant in SECL's Raigad area, built at a cost of over 173 crore. Additionally, the Barud OCP coal handling plant at SECL Raigad area, designed to handle 10 MT of coal annually, has been completed at a cost of Rs 216 crore. Equipped with an overground bunker capacity of 20,000 tons and a 1.7 kilometer conveyor belt, the project features a rapid loading system capable of loading 5,000 to 7,500 tons of coal per hour, significantly streamlining the loading process and contributing to operational efficiency. Aligning with the PM Gati Shakti National Master Plan, these projects demonstrate commitment to provide multi-modal connectivity and enhancing coal infrastructure across the region. By generating local employment opportunities and ensuring efficient energy supply, they play a pivotal role in the socio-economic development of the area. Now, India-US hold 11th bilateral consular dialogue. The Indian delegation led by Dr. K.J. Srinivas, Joint Secretary in Ministry of External Affairs, hosted the US delegation. The dialogue reinforced the strong people-to-people ties and cooperation that both countries share across consular issues of mutual interest. Both sides discussed ways of enhancing cooperation on a wide range of issues such as extradition, mobility of students and professionals, safe and legal migration, protection of vulnerable women and children, and enabling smooth travel of their respective nationals. They welcomed the launch of pilot in the US to adjudicate domestic renewals of certain categories of visas as proactive steps towards strengthening robust connections between people of the two countries. Both sides agreed to hold the next consular dialogue in the US next year. Now let's take a look at other stories making news today. India's ruling party President J.P. Nadda, along with Union Ministers Dr. Mansukh Mandaviya and Anurag Singh Thakur, inaugurated new healthcare facilities in All India Institute of Medical Sciences in northern city of Bilaspur in Himachal Pradesh. They also laid foundation stone of night shelter at the institute. Indian Met Department has forecast rainfall with isolated thunderstorm activity likely over northeast and adjoining East India till Sunday. It said that isolated heavy rainfall and snowfall is also very likely over Arunachal Pradesh, Assam, Sikkim and Nagaland for the next 2 days. And devotees in India's southern state of Tamil Nadu thronged the Muniyandi Swami temple in Madurai city to celebrate the annual Biryani festival. Locals believe that biryani, a rice dish, is the favorite food of the deity Lord Muniyandi. And tourists in North Indian city of Gulmarg resumed their visit a day after an avalanche hit the valley. As normalcy returned, people were seen enjoying skiing and other winter sports. The snow-capped mountains gave a phenomenal view. Sports now will start with cricket. Joe Root rescued England with the century on the opening day of the fourth test against India on Friday, steering the tourists to a respectable 302 for 7 after Akashdeep took early wickets for India. The right-hander responded to the backlash against England's baseball approach after their drubbing in the third test with an unbeaten 106 not out, which brought England back into the game from a precarious 112 for 5 at lunch. Ollie Robinson was also unbeaten after a useful cameo of 31, relieving the pressure on Ben Stokes, who was earlier left to do his decision to bat as England lost the top half of their batting order in the frenetic first session. The host 2-1 cushion in the 5-match series allowed them to rest pace spearhead Bumrah, and Akashdeep became the fourth Indian to make his debut in the series. And the Court of Arbitration for Sport has dismissed an appeal from Russia against an International Olympic Committee suspension for recognizing regional organizations from territories annexed from Ukraine. The IOC banned the Russian Olympic Committee in October for recognizing regional Olympic councils for Russian-controlled regions of Ukraine, Luhansk, Donetsk, Kherson and Zaporizhia. The suspension ensures the ROC will not be eligible for funding and will not be associated with the Olympic movement, but does not affect any decision on Russian athletes' participation at the Paris Olympics 2024. Well, that's all for this edition of DD India Live, but do let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. You can connect with us on Facebook, X, formerly Twitter and Instagram. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Abhishek Mahajan. From all of us here in Delhi, thanks for watching DD India Live.